have an hour. We have a ton of stuff that we want to talk about, but this is the first time that we have not been together to meet together, chat, and gosh, it's been almost a year, maybe 6 months, something like that. It's been forever. Because if you think about it, it was like last spring. So we've had a lot of changes. So let's talk to people who are here and then come back and talk to us and talk to each other. But welcome everybody. We should be formal at the beginning. Thank you for joining us today. This is the very first inaugural episode of PYF Women Talk. And so PYF stands for Putting Yourself First, as we have so many opportunities to talk about why we need to, as women, put ourselves first sometimes. So what it really stands for is putting yourself first, or at least on the list, because you know what I mean? I think if we tell each other, you know what, you got to put yourself first. That's so cliche at this point, or it's so oversaid. Oh, you just got to take some time for yourself. Like, I don't want to punch somebody if they say that. Like, of course we do need to take time for ourselves, but it's not always possible. So we could at least put ourselves on the list is kind of the idea. So a quick catch up of what we've been doing for the past year or 6 months or 9 months or whatever. Should I dive in and then switch over to you, because you're going to take over, because I want to hear everything that you've got going on, and I want everybody who's here to I've talked about you and how amazing you are. And so everybody's going to get to hear how amazing Akilah is, straight from you. So one of the reasons that we're here today and that we're starting up these webinars is because of the idea that I'm not excluding men from this conversation, but as women, there is a experience that I think we tend to have in common where we don't necessarily recognize our own greatness, our own excellence, our own amazing capacity. And others recognize it in us, but we don't always get the opportunities to tell each other how great we are. And then we don't always believe it when we hear it. And then we just create these kind of silos that we all live in as women, running from, changing hat to hat. And so we wanted to create a space where we could do it. And so PYF Women, and I'm looking over because I'm looking at my other monitor to share what a PYF woman is, in my opinion. And so Akilah, you are our first shining star, is somebody who possesses and demonstrates genuine kindness. Talks up other women, those who aren't in the room, like up talks, right? Like, I want your ears to be burning because I'm talking about you because you're so amazing. Hold safe and supportive space for other women. Models being a work in progress, which I all day long, right? Embodies the brilliance of being less than perfect. Confidently declares that they are amazing and yet they are far from perfect. And they support and cheer on other women. And so no pressure, Akilah. But what I say is that together, all the women that I see like this, by their very presence, these women elevate the spaces they inhabit and intentionally work to make the world a better place. And I say all while occasionally leaving the house in mismatched shoes, because I've done it, right?
Yeah. You can see me from the neck up, but you don't know what else is going on down here.
Not even telling you what's happening here. Yeah. We had the joke, we've had the jokes when we work together about, if we made everybody stand up in the meeting, it would be awful. Like, don't do it. We can't have it. So
save yourself.
Yeah. Exactly. So, from working in school, I worked in schools forever, and that's how you and I got to know each other, is we both worked at CDW. You're still there, working to support education. And one of my favorite things to do is support educators and bringing brain-based, I can't say it, but I can do it, self-regulation practices to students. And then when COVID hit, I realized that some of these same practices we were using with students were very applicable for adults as well, right?
Yeah,
like having the teacher, supporting the teacher and self-regulating, I learned was probably even more important than teaching the students, right? And so then I started studying for my doctorate, which, is 100 years from now, but it's happening. And I started really diving into understanding the dynamics of the brain and how understanding that can lead us to living lives that we love.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing that kind of part-time on the side for years, but about 4 months ago, decided to dive into it full-time. And so today, here, everywhere, we're sharing like strategic practices on navigating life and change. We've got small shifts that we make that lead to huge impact, huge changes in the world. And then I mostly work with women in education. And I think
Yeah.
that's partially because it's what I know, but also
Yeah.
cue, hold on, and cue the like music in the background and get your Kleenex out, because I'm going to say, and I'm actually quoting something that I said to somebody else once. So that, because it's so kitschy, but I love it. And I said, I mostly work because I know that every single woman out there, and this is totally true, I'm not making fun of myself, but I am a little bit. Every single woman out there who is happier, more relaxed, and more fulfilled impacts the lives of her family, her colleagues, and even and especially the
Mm.
children around her. And we focus in education because education's full of women, right? It's
Yeah.
hugely, yep, female
75%.
dominated. Yeah.
75%. Mm-hmm.
And so why not? If we can coach and guide and create a space where women feel empowered and amazing, we're going to have that multi-generational multiplying impact,
Mm-hmm.
because every single person they impact is also going to feel better about themselves and love their life. So that's what I'm doing. So that's why we're here today.
Just a little bit, just a few things, right?
Just a few things. So tell us what you're doing, because I led off with, we worked at CDW together.
Yes.
We worked on the same team. We had such fun times together. I made this shift into full-time consulting coaching work. You
Mm-hmm.
are still working at CDW as an ed
Mm-hmm.
strat, doing phenomenal work, and you are
Yes.
also working as Upskilled Services. So you're going to tell us
Yeah.
about that mostly, but maybe dive into
Oh,
everything
yeah.
that's been going on, because you've had a few changes.
A lot of changes. So, yes, still working. I call it the day job. So, and for the past year, and it's ironic, I didn't realize this until I was speaking to another friend literally about an hour ago, and realized that today is my 1 year anniversary in business with Upskill Services. So I
Oh, you're
launched
kidding.
it, yes, January 11th, 2023. So I didn't realize it. I'm a year old today,
Yeah,
and we're
they're
having
so
this
cute.
conversation. But what I do, of course, with CDW is working with technology leaders, helping them just plan out whatever big projects. And then with Upskill Services, this was something I founded on the side to be able to speak directly to individuals that are in the virtual learning space. So, what I do specifically, like the core of that, is building digital courses for people. So, it could be video based courses for coaches and consultants like yourself, or it could also be e learning, things that are self paced that are more compliance types of trainings. And it took me, I won't exaggerate, it took me months in my own head to finally just do the thing, because I was just like, oh, this is something that I enjoy. This is a skill set that I've got. How do I serve other people with it? Didn't know. And decided, okay, here we go. We're going to finally just launch and put it out there and see if there's any kind of response. And there has indeed. And just by chance, all of the clients that I've worked with, because I work one-on-one with individuals, all of the clients that I've worked with have been women business owners. And it wasn't the intention, it wasn't the target, but now that I realize that's the group that's showing up at my doorstep, oh yeah, hell yeah. I'm very much going to take that on and say, yes, I support women-owned businesses. So come on with whatever it is that you want to do. I'm going to help you with one tiny slice of making that a success. So, and again, let me go all down the rabbit hole, because I didn't realize at the time when I first said it was just a service. It was truly just a skill set that I had, and I wanted to put it out there to help people. But then I realized that with the people that do this work, they do one-to-one work. So you take on one client at a time. You're working with them in very intimate conversations, and you yourself as a consultant, you're one person. So in order to take in more business, in order to do more work, you almost have to clone yourself.
Yeah.
And of course, that's impossible. So that leads to the point of, how are all the different ways that these people can scale their services? And the way that you do it is that you put it into a course, and then that course is going to be whatever service, whatever skill, whatever framework that you have created, you now can get that to more than one person at a time while still doing the one-to-one work that you enjoy.
There are so many people that I work with who are women, who mostly women, I'll just keep saying that, who are wanting to share what they know in a structured way, educational way, and they want to do it in the virtual environment and they don't know how, and it's through nobody's fault. It just is what it is, right? But the communication of the information stops people. Like,
Yeah.
maybe I have this skill and I want to teach people, I don't know, how to crochet purple monkeys,
Mhm.
to donate to a hospital. I don't know. I'm making this up as I go.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they can't do it. Like you're saying, they've got full-time jobs, they got things going on, they've got it all, and they don't have time to do it one to one to one to one to one. But if they have
Right.
somebody like you who could support them with the, heavy lift of the initial startup, then they can really find their dream and achieve their dream in a way that's accessible. And it takes away one of
Yeah.
those
And
blocks. Akilah, that's awesome.
it goes back, it goes into the whole mindset of, as women, we kind of feel like we got to do it all. And we're not the only ones,
What?
because men have their version of that story as well. So I don't want to, make it anything that is us versus them.
No,
However,
but
my perspective is that of a woman. So I know that we will say, okay, this isn't hard. I can knuckle down and figure out how to do it.
oh
But what
yeah.
I challenge people to is that you are the brains behind whatever your vision is, whatever your business is sitting down for the next several weeks, losing your weekends, losing your evenings, trying to figure out how to do this one thing. Is that the best use of your time? Is that where you want your brilliance to go at this moment? Or could you just bring in an expert like myself and I handle it for you? So you get to continue with the clients, you get to continue with the high level thinking, the dream chasing, while somebody that's a professional that's done it 20,000 times can just
Yeah.
have your back and just say, here you go, we're ready.
Yeah.
Go plug
No,
this
that
in.
makes I love it. You said, is that where you want your brilliance to go? I just dropped that in the chat because I think that's one of the cooler things that I've heard today. But it does take that idea that I'm thinking of a couple of people that I know are in the room right now. And also, and dear friends, but people who really we do believe we have to do it all. And
Mhm.
that idea that we can let go and we can pass things on now, we always say, like, I'm just gonna do it myself because somebody
Mhm.
else is going to screw it up. But and then I'm going to have to do it again anyway. But in the situation we're talking about here, you're removing barriers to entry for people who
Mhm.
really want to do something that they're dreaming of and that they may never touch on because they're
Mhm.
going to think that they have to know it all in order to do it all. And the idea
Mhm.
of having a community that, and having connections and people that you can connect with, which is what we're doing here, is it makes it where we're all supporting each other instead of being in those
Absolutely.
silos that we sit in so easily and so often, right?
Yeah, and forget the damn silo. God, I mean, we've
Stop
got.
the silo.
I know. Let me put my poster board up and
Who
go
will be
stand
that
on the
guy?
corner. Yeah, be that guy. But with the silos, we need to tap into our networks. Oh my God. I think that needs to be my new message, is that your network holds the answers to any and every problem that you've got.
Yeah, yeah,
So, if it's the badass corporate chick, if it's going to be the phenomenal business owner, if it's going to be the fourth grade teacher that's your next door neighbor, they all collectively have an answer to whatever it is, the problem that you're trying to solve. So, reach out and get everybody together, and figure out how to solve whatever the thing is that you want to do, or bring them on as a partner to take on a task that you just don't have time for. I mean, when we go to the grocery store, well, excuse me, if we go to the grocery store nowadays, you can go and up and down every aisle and buy it yourself, or you can order it and do Instacart pickup or delivery it yourself. Yes, you are fully capable to go and take care of this task, to do this chore, but you do have an option. So if there is a day, if there is a month, if there is a season of life where it makes more sense to bring in your network, do it. Nobody's
yeah.
judging you for it, but you get 10 steps ahead a lot faster than having to sit there and knuckle down and do it all by yourself.
I don't disagree. I'm going to tackle back to what you said. Nobody's judging you for it. And I'm going to call foul on that to a degree. Now, I know what you're saying, but you do know, like we as women, and you and I have talked about this like over time, like there is this somehow illusion that we've got ourselves under, that we have to be perfect or we have to display things in a perfect way. Like I had people over a couple of weeks ago. We did a progressive dinner with some girlfriends. It was fantastic. And
That sounds fun.
you are not going to be surprised that my place was cleaner than it had been in the months before, or it has been since, right? Like I
Yes.
could look around right now and there is dog, puppy, there's stuff everywhere. And none of that was on display when my friends came over to, drink
Ah.
wine and eat lasagna.
Mhm.
And it's partially because we want this welcoming environment, but it's also, we do it to ourselves, that we have to be putting on this perfect,
Mhm.
image all the time. And then there is the reality that not everyone is super supportive of everyone, right? And so
Yeah. I
creating,
That's true. I
go
mean,
ahead.
we're not always super, everyone is not going to be super supportive of you.
Sure.
But again, I'm probably at an age where I've been through all of those seasons where you spend all the time trying to make everything perfect because you're afraid that X group is going to have a certain judgment of you. Then you make
Absolutely.
everything perfect because you're a homemaker, you're thinking of your family, you want things to be beautiful for them.
Yep.
Then you get to a certain age where I am right now, where you just start shedding some of those layers. And the judgment of other people has a little less sting once you get to
Yes.
this age. It doesn't
Sing
go
it,
away.
lady.
It absolutely doesn't
No,
go away,
it really
but
doesn't.
you start to give fewer cares. And, my language is better today,
That was
but
pretty good. I wasn't sure how we were going to do this part
I
cleanly.
know.
So,
But
I
where's
didn't know this is where we were
the
going,
bleep
but
button? You don't have a bleep button, so I'm
I
calling
don't.
management. But yeah, we start to care a little bit less about the
Yeah.
judgment of others. So no, it doesn't go away, but it also doesn't affect you as deeply.
I think you're right, because in the past, I will be 100% honest, 20 years ago,
Mhm.
if I knew people were coming over, my linen closet would have been perfect.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, today, this time it was legit because I wanted people to come over and enjoy themselves and feel comfortable. And I wanted to
Mhm.
feel, proud of my home and where I live. And you wouldn't have sat on anything because of the dog hair. So, there is the reality. And I think that ties into the way I learned about that, and where it kind of came home to me was in Dare to Lead, right?
Mm,
Actually, yeah, because I got it right here because we're going to be doing book club on it. But when we talk about, you know, are we going to listen to the people in the cheap seats, right? The ones who
right.
are, you know, not out there doing what we're doing, taking the chances we're doing. So I think it really talks to surrounding yourself with people who are going to support you and who are going to, who are going to
Mhm.
be your biggest fans. Like it was so cool because one of my dear friends, Emily, about 20 minutes before we got on this, she sent me a
Mhm.
text and she's like, have a great webinar. Like she and I
Mhm.
have done webinars together for years,
Mhm.
right? We do every month. We do this, afternoons with Asti. So we're on webinars all the time, but she knew this meant something to me. And so she took the time to text me. And
It's
then
all
my other friend
yours.
Cindy texted me, like, these are the
Yeah,
people who are your circle,
that's right.
you
That's right.
know? And
And
so,
you got to have that circle. And I will also
yeah,
challenge that you need multiple circles. And you and I have had
go
this
there.
conversation before, that we're in that education space, then we moved into that corporate technology space.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when you decide that you want to found some type of business venture, you now need to create a space for that. And I give all love, honor, and respect to my girl gang because I have a rock solid, supportive circle of women in my life that will, hell, I mean, they will cheer me on if I just find a coupon for 50% off. Go, girl, you did it. And, but when I decide, of course, I'm thinking about money, but when I decided that I wanted to go out on this business venture, they haven't been down this path. So
Yeah.
they're there for me. They trust that I'm going after something worthwhile, but they're not able to jump in and give me advice. They're not in,
Right.
when I say I need to hit this metric or I need to figure out this marketing plan, they don't understand that. So I've had to be intentional 2024, which I've already, what are we, 11 days in? I've been
Yes.
very intentional about building whatever that new circle is going to be like. I still got my girls. I still, as a matter of fact, just had lunch with a beautiful, beautiful dear friend of mine today because I needed that soul serving conversation from a
Yeah.
dear friend. And realizing that, okay, I also need to build up that business network, these other chicks that are going out there in entrepreneurship that could be the one that I call when I'm having that business breakdown. So
Yeah.
that's important.
Yeah. And have you had, I know that sometimes people do, had people who have tried to, in the most loving way possible, detract you from doing this? Be like,
There,
like with all the love in the world, but are
yeah,
you sure that you want
yeah.
to?
It has happened, not a lot. I will say I've just been very, very blessed to have people that trust my gut. I'm saying, hey, I want to do this new thing. I
Yeah.
might, I don't know, skydive at lunchtime, whatever. They're just like, oh yeah, great. Oh, we trust you. Oh, we know
Yes.
you've thought this through. But there have been a few times where people are just questioning exactly what is that, what do you
Yeah.
mean courses? What do you mean digital strategy? What do you mean? And because it's not a product, it's not a physical, it's not a tangible thing that I can say, this is what I build, this is what I create. So it's a little bit difficult to get that across. But overall, I think my entire family and friend network, they've been supportive of it because they don't quite see it yet, but they trust that it's going somewhere. So
Okay.
I don't take that for granted because I know that's not everybody's story.
It is not, because there's so many, right? There's so many that people that I've talked to who have that experience. It's like the crab effect, they talk
Mm,
about like you put crabs in and the crabs try
absolutely.
to crawl out and they'll
Hmm.
pull them down, so I
Okay.
think
Oh, and I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
go, go.
No, no, no. I do have this thought in the back of my mind that I've kind of been holding on to is because you hear about different people that say, when you're building it, when you're going off on this thing, yes, if you have a loving, supportive network, they're going to say, yeah, do your thing. But you also kind of know you're pushing up against unknown territory when you start to get the criticism and the naysayers, the people that are gonna assume that you're, too big for your britches, like, your grandma probably
Yep.
said once upon a time. And
Yep.
so I've kind of equated that to, okay, when I hit that level, when I get to this next level of whatever my next story is, my evolution is, when I start to feel and hear and feel that criticism, maybe I'm really going in an unknown path at that point. So I'm waiting for that to happen. I'm a little far away from it, but I think it's possible it's coming soon.
So would you see that as a stop sign? Like, oh my
No,
gosh, I'm doing something wrong?
no, it's just the opposite. I'll be like, okay, you're bumping up against the ceiling. It's time to shatter
Yeah.
that bad boy. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm gonna take it as.
Well, and I'm actually looking on my sticky notes because I have a quote that I'm trying to find that actually says, and I can't find it, of course. Oh, if you want to build something worthwhile, be ready for criticism,
Ooh, yes,
right? Like, how cool
100%,
is that? Yeah.
100%.
So I think, and the people that know you through, and I'm talking work, I'm talking personal life, I'm talking anytime you want to make a change, the people who know you through a specific lens, like that's where they're comfortable, right? They're comfortable with you wearing a certain face, you wearing a certain hat. And if you take the time and if you're
Mhm,
making the change, that changes their world too. If it's somebody
absolutely.
who, you're a part of their circle or whatever. And
Yeah.
like I've talked to people who are like, I want to quit, who've told me, well, of course you can quit your job. You don't have kids at home. But you know what I mean?
Hmm.
But there's a lot of of course you can, but I can't. And
Yeah.
so I'm a little concerned about the fact that you are making this decision. I just find it really interesting. And
It's
so if you go ahead.
what and the criticism, the people that are saying, of course you can, I can't, or you're so
Yeah.
lucky, I'm not as
Mhm.
fortunate, whatever the story is, it's all a version of you have some special circumstances where you're able to do this big thing without any pain, without any sacrifice, which we of course know is not true. But what it really
Tears.
says is more about that person and their limiting beliefs.
So
And
limiting.
I say that not as a criticism or a put down, but more of putting a loving hug around those folks because
Yeah.
their mindset, their experiences have them in a certain place. So all they can see is that. And anybody that elevates beyond that, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute in their reality. So yeah, I totally get that.
And I think it is a safety thing sometimes. Not, I think it is sometimes. I think it always is like a
Mm-hmm.
safety thing. And I think if we make sure that we recognize it, or even if they're not, but if I prefer to believe that it comes from love, like a place of love, a place of caring, then I'm going to sit in a better spot. And
Yeah.
because there is such a huge swimming pool of, you know, doubt and we're going to talk imposter syndrome, right? Like, every day I wake up and go, what the hell am I thinking? Like,
Yeah.
we're doing, through one of the things I volunteer with ST, right? And we're doing a CETL cohort. Now you're
Mm-hmm.
a CETL, you're going to be one of our guests that comes in and talks. But all of a sudden, like about a few months ago, a couple of colleagues and I, Diana, Emily, and I decided, you know what, let's put together a CETL study cohort. And we went, okay. And now we've got like 30 people showing up on Friday. And this morning we looked at each other and went, "Dude, what were we thinking?"
How did this
I mean,
happen?
yeah, we had a couple minutes where at least I did. I was like, what the who makes us think we can do this? But because it's such a strong group, I actually looked, my like you said, like my core circle of women, I couldn't imagine going through life without them
Mm-hmm.
because I can literally go to them. Like I said to them, Emily and Diana specifically the other day, I'm like, am I an a-hole? Like I actually said the word. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, am I doing this wrong? Am I doing? And they were like, one, no. Two, we'd let you know. And it's that true honesty that you can be less than perfect, even though it's terrifying, but know that you'll still be loved and supported. That is the only reason I think that it's one of the biggest takeaways of the past like few years of my life
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
really learning because I didn't understand how important your core circle is
Yeah.
until, now that I have such a strong one. Um, it makes it possible to do a lot of things. And like, we said, like what we do, if we're doing what we love and really growing into the best people we can be, it only supports everybody.
And it's so funny. I don't know. I assume everybody's high school experience was, terrifying.
Or
But
would you go back? No.
no. But it's like we spend our formative years, junior high school, and our one and only goal is to be loved and accepted by everyone, as many
Right.
people as possible. And then the further we go in life, the more we experience, the more seasons that we survive. We really just want to cultivate a few cherished relationships, for screw all those other people. I've got, my core circle, and it is just such a 180 between where we think we are at, 12, 13 years old and where we are at 53, 55. We're just like, I don't care what they're doing. I've got what I want to do here. And it's so interesting to see us all evolve to that space.
I think it's neat. Like I look at, and you and I both travel a fair amount for work. And I used to know that if I saw like a woman sitting in a restaurant by herself, I'd be like, oh, feel so,
Now you're
I feel so bad
jealous.
for her. Now I'm like, I remember, I think I was sitting in a restaurant by myself, like minding my own business. There was this young woman with her like kids crawling all over her, and her husband's like on his phone, and she's just looking over. And I'm like, it'll be okay, I promise.
I
You'll
know.
get there. But the
I
longing on her face was,
it's so funny. You go someplace. It was I love my solitude. I definitely enjoy time with my husband, with my family, but also those times of solitude. And so if I am somewhere eating dinner, traveling, whatever, and you're eating by
yeah,
yourself, you get that look, someone like you're saying, from across the way, and they're like, okay, do we say something to her, whatever. And I put on the do not approach me face. Like, please leave me alone. This is a beautiful moment. It is quiet. I don't have to talk to anybody. Please just
Like,
leave me be.
somebody's going to take these dishes away. So you said something that I thought was really cool when you were talking, we were talking about kind of shifting to new identity. Like
Mhm.
I've had some hiccups internal, completely internal, but about starting to come to people in a different way. Like
Mhm.
I've been known, like my job's been ed tech for years, right? Like I can
Yes.
talk, ed
Yes.
tech all day long. And to now make that shift and start to say, you know what, we're talking, you know, change management, and how do we bring this, like we can do it again in the professional realm, but to take it into the personal realm. Like I personally know that I have tools that I've learned, they're evidence-based research, brain-based, blah blah blah, that I know can help you as an
Mhm.
individual make changes in your life and do things and bring yourself to something that you really love. That's been really, really, really hard for me because
Mhm.
you're seen as one person. And you said something, and I'm looking at my notes. You said one of the cool things that you noticed was that you don't have to tie your identity. We don't have to tie our identity to only one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't.
And that was really cool. Tell me more, like about what you were thinking when you said that, because I thought that was amazing.
Well, and that comes from a space of somebody that did tie their identity to one job. I, just like you, we were in this different school systems. I spent 23 years of my career in a large school district where I'm based in Houston, Texas. And that, you know, came all the way up. I was one of those homegrown talents where did all the right things, checked all the boxes, and just slowly got promoted all the way to the top. And got to a point where I just, as we are sitting here, I decided that I wanted something different. I wanted to experience other things, career and financially, and wasn't ashamed of that. So when I decided it's time to go, it's time to shift, I realized that everything about my professional identity was tied to that school system. So my social media accounts, the way I dressed, I mean, quite frankly, all of my public appearances, my speaking gigs, everything was as a representative of that organization. Now, don't get me wrong, I did a fantastic job. I I will own that. I rocked it. So when it was time for me to go, I didn't want there to be any any perception that this was a bad breakup. It was just time, and shifted into a new role, and everything still tried to pull me into that former identity. So now shifting again into entrepreneurship, I'm trying to make sure that I share the message that you are a multifaceted human being. You are multi-talented. You've got so much freaking stuff to offer that it doesn't all have to be in one box. You can create your several boxes or no box at all. So just to be intentional with how you represent yourself, because when it comes, I mean, unless there is something explicitly written in a, document that says you must, represent this
Sure.
organization on social media, which is rare. I'll be flat honest. It is very rare. It might be inferred, but it's usually not enforceable. So you decide, who you are, what your identity is, who you want to represent, how you want to represent yourself. And it's totally on you. So right now, I give fair attention to both. I enjoy my day job. I really do. I think I'm very good at it. I built some really great relationships in that organization, but I also have the business side. So my evenings and my weekends are networking with other badass chicks that are doing the same thing. And I want to build that brand. I want to make sure that they know who I am and what I have to offer. So I don't necessarily have to wear one brand. I am Akilah. I am my own brand. So
Yeah.
come to me for whatever it is that you're seeking, and I'll put that hat on at the whatever hat it is at the appropriate time.
And one thing to note is that you were doing this before the kids left the house too, because
Mhm.
you're empty nesting right now. I'm empty nest. We're all The first, yeah, I've got like the first, I've talked to some people who are like, the kids are leaving soon. I'm like, it'll be hard for a little bit. And then it'll be,
Hmm.
you and I have had different experiences. Like, I really, talking about the identity thing, like, I really, really tried to tie my identity to only one thing. And that was,
Mm,
like kind of almost Stepford wife mom type thing. And,
yeah,
I worked, but I worked part-time and I was underemployed for many years because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. You
yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? And so that's kind of, and it was mostly me that was probably saying that to myself. I
Hmm.
don't think that, it was being said to me, by anybody that was specifically around me. So, but I didn't think of that we don't have to tie our identity to one thing.
Yeah,
Like, if I
yeah.
couldn't be this, I didn't know how to be anything else. But then life changes, right? The kids
Mhm.
leave, um, for my situation, got divorced. And all of a sudden one day looking around and I'm like, well, who am I if I'm not that? And
Yeah,
so to,
yeah.
go
Mm,
through that experience, I think it's really important that the younger we can help women understand
hmm.
exactly what you're sharing, that you don't have to tie to your identity to only one thing. You are so much more than you recognize, and we are so capable of being, the mom, the wife, the professional, the business owner, the entrepreneur, I don't know, ballet dancer and juggler. Like, and
And
it's
it
all
it
good.
shouldn't be taken lightly either. I know that, we have to shrink it down into one conversation for the sake of this
I know,
webinar,
right?
but with it, it's a real struggle for some individuals to be able to say, who am I if I'm not this? And if you think about the different roles that we tie to ourselves, whether it's wife, mother, teacher, anything, so many of those identities that we attach ourselves to are service based. We're
Oh,
serving someone else's success, someone else's comfort, someone else's whatever it is. And when you really think about it, you're just like, okay, I can do more. I can be more than this. And I can be more than this at a time. I don't have to be just mom for this whole season. I don't have to just be teacher this whole, I can be all of those things if I choose to. And yeah, I'll go back even a couple of beats, because talking about jobs and career, one message that I feel like I've been inadvertently giving to a lot of people recently is, you do have to find your joy outside of your career. And that might be a super unpopular opinion, but I hear so many people in conversation talking about, oh, my job is just not fulfilling. I need to completely, take all my years of experience and just start all over, but I'm scared. And I'm just like, okay, are we putting too many expectations on our jobs? Yes, we are doing the job to pay the bills so that, we can survive and eat another day. But have we fully explored all the other parts of our lives that could be fulfilling instead of just our 9 to 5?
mhm.
And
What about tying being a mom and being a wife into that as well? Because I know
that,
that it all, like,
yeah, that too.
the idea of being something outside, again,
Hmm.
that goes all the way to putting yourself first, putting yourself on the list, because so
Yeah.
many, we do have, busy as a pride of honor, badge of honor as our culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the most
Mm-hmm.
part, like, what's the first thing people say? Oh, I'm busy. I'm so
I'm
busy. I
busy.
got so much going on. And
Yeah.
then also being there's that natural kind of chemical high we get off of saying, yeah, I'll take care of it, or being the
Yeah.
person.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, when, like, how often have you done, I think we can all admit it, how often have you done something for somebody to do something nice for them, and when they don't appreciate it, or they didn't want you to do it in the first place, you're like, wait, but I went out of the way and did it. And they're like, but I didn't want you to.
I didn't ask for it. Did not
I
ask
didn't
for
ask
it.
for it.
Yeah.
But you're like, so we kind of want to recognize that when we're doing that, we're not doing it for other, we're doing it for ourselves.
We're
You know
doing,
what I mean? And
yes.
doing it for that
Yes.
identity that we are trying to, that we're claiming. But
Because busy equates to being important. Somebody needs me,
yeah,
therefore I'm busy because I'm helping or serving or producing for someone else. Yeah.
so it gets scary to not be doing that.
Hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
scary to say, you know what? No, I need to do something for myself because there might, if you, depending on your circle, there might be six other women who are looking at you going, well, why don't you just do it? I
Oh
would do
yeah.
it,
Oh yeah.
you know?
And I keep thinking of, again, all of these women that are in my immediate network.
Yeah.
Conversation, it's January at the time that we're hosting this, and the everyone's talking about visioning, talking about goal setting. What are you going to do? What are you going to be in 2024? And I love, 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 love the beginning of the year to do all of that stuff. I am a super nerd. I do all the planners, the sticky notes, the different color pins, but I don't love language. I think I need to like find some gel pens and
Uh-huh. I got sticky notes. Hold on.
yeah,
I got your sticky
but
notes.
it's like in that conversation, it's so interesting with, you know, I don't know, we spend so much time talking about, what we're gonna do, what we're gonna be. And I went down this rabbit hole and now I've forgotten what my point was supposed to be. But you know, when I hear dear friends of mine talk about being overwhelmed because they're buried under expectations or work or whatever the situation is, and as you dig deeper into how they got in those circumstances, so many times it's because they did not exercise boundaries and saying no. No. Do you want to, can you stay late and do this? No. Can we get together this weekend? No. Hey, let's get out and let's do the thing. No. And we just don't exercise that one powerful single syllable word enough. And that probably would allow so many people to reduce a little bit of noise, a little bit of overwhelm, but we don't. And it doesn't have to be an explanation. You don't have to justify your reasons for anybody. No, I just don't want to. No. Thank you for your consideration, but no.
That's so scary to even hear. But you're right. One of the first things I started working with a coach a few years ago, and one of my first tasks to um, do was he had gave me the requirement that for a week I had to say no to everything first. Like, basically he was saying I was people pleaser, but he wasn't saying it in those words, and he was
Uh-huh.
absolutely right. Because I was like, oh, every people come to me because I'll take care, and I'm like, but we're like buds, and I was talking about doing something, and he was like, but are you really friends? And I'm like, oh, that hit hard. And I was like,
Oh, he
because
didn't
he
even
wasn't,
say it to me. And I'm like, that feels like a
yeah,
slap.
it was what it felt like because he just went, really? Are you sure? And I was like, oh my gosh, it was exactly what I needed. He was one of those in your face, like, no, this was tough love. And he was amazing for me. It was exactly what I needed at the time. But the
Oh my
point was,
gosh.
he said, for a week, I want you to say no. He said, you could turn around and say yes right after. And he's
Okay.
like, if the words no can't come out of your mouth, which, if you don't feel comfortable, then let's begin with you know what, let me think about that and I'll get back to you. He said,
Mm.
for a week. Like if it was, and his example was if you go to a restaurant and they ask if you want water, you say no, thank you. As soon as they come back, you can ask for a glass of water. But literally, just because, and we could go into this forever, it's that whole carving the new neural pathways
Wow.
that, right? Because we're so one, when we say yes, we get a little chemical boost, like a woohoo, a little feel good chemical every time we say yes. Um, and so that our brain gets addicted to the quick yes. And so
Yeah.
every time we say yes, we're giving ourselves like a little boost. Like you think about it, when you say, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll take your cat for a
Mm.
week. Like you
Mm.
feel really good. But then the cat shows up and you're like, well, crap, I got a cat for a week and I've got four dogs. It's never happened to me. Um, like literally, but I'm trying to think of, how that could be. And so there was a lot of that and then people who maybe aren't intentionally offloading, but they offload to you because they know you'll
Yeah.
get it done because you're good at
Yeah.
what you do. You know what I mean? And so anyway, so whole point, it was such a great experience that I would recommend anybody do it. Like a
That
week
is
of saying
interesting.
no. Because one, you feel like a complete jerk at first. You feel worried that you're going to be disliked. And again, or you're going to be excluded or people are going to stop coming to you. And you know what? If they do, and some people did stop coming to me for things, they stopped being my
Yeah.
friend. when I stopped saying yes all the time. It was a fascinating experience.
So that
And
answered your question of whether
it
or
did.
not,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was
Ooh,
beautiful.
that
It
was
was
deep.
hard. It was
That
deep.
was
It was
deep.
good. It was really good. And so, um, that was, again, I was starting to study like, neuroplasticity and understanding that we have to carve those new neural pathways in order to change behavior, right? And
Hmm.
it's like, I mean, we're both in the South, right? You're in Houston, I'm in Arizona, but, when we're up north, we got to like, crunch the snow down and like create a new path. So the first time it's hard, you keep going, it gets easier and easier. So anyway, but I don't even know where I was going with that, except for the idea that putting ourselves first is not something that I think any of us are used to. It's not going to be
Right.
easy. It's not popular, but if we do it in really small bites
Hmm.
with a supportive circle, it can be done. And so there are so many women out there I know who want to do different things, but just don't feel like they can. Or they say, you know
Yeah.
what, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to wait until the kids are out of the house. I'm going to wait until this happens. I'm going to wait until that happens.
Yeah.
And then
It,
we're not guaranteed
you're not
that we're going to get that time.
guaranteed. And I, I am doing what I'm doing as an empty nester. So, but I
Yep.
do have people that I've connected with very recently that are doing it while also being full-time parents, career woman, other things. And I have to just sit back and just, give them a high five and say, damn, you're a badass, because I couldn't have done that. Just me, myself. I know, like you said, the identities that I was willing to attach myself to as being the mom that showed up for every event, as being the, person that made sure that we all were on the right calendars for the week. So we knew when the events were happening. So it's interesting that when you try to put yourself first, which shouldn't be anything heroic. Gosh, there's something almost an oxymoron with that, that we have to say, put yourself first.
But it's a thing.
Whose
Yeah.
job is it to put you first? Is there anybody else that's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, Laura, hey, it's time to put yourself first? No, it's your job. It is your job to put yourself first, always. So if you lose sight of that, everything else just crumbles beneath the stack. And that's probably what's happening to a lot of us at different seasons in our lives, is that we forget that, and then things start to fall apart and we're scratching our heads trying to figure out what happened. But yeah, I had a moment there.
Like just a moment. Yeah, but it's always there. And I think that's where the tiniest of shifts, like I'm going to push like the bingo game,
Mm.
the PYF bingo that we play. There's 25 things on there, and in a month, you want to try to get, at least 15 squares marked
Hmm.
off. And I've had people come back to me and say, well, I already do that. Like I'd say, take a 15-minute walk, or,
Hmm.
clean out a drawer, or, wear a different color, right?
Mm.
And they're like, well, that's no big deal. And I'm like,
Yeah.
exactly. It's not bright, shiny. Um, it's not flashy. And that's the point of it, because
Yeah.
we're already doing so many things. So let's gather evidence of the cool things that we're already doing to take care of ourselves. And
Right.
then
Right.
let's take that next little step, because we're going to feel safe. Like if we all of a sudden say, you know what, I'm going to stop picking the kids up from school every day because I'm going to go to the gym instead. Mentally, we're like, most of us would really struggle with that.
Mhm.
And you know what?
Right.
Let's also honor and respect any woman who decides that is what she wants to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Don't denigrate it. Don't, just honor it and be like, you go, girl. But I think that without a circle who is willing to do that, and the opportunities to have those small steps, we just keep cycling, you
We
know?
do. We
Yeah.
do.
And we sit in imposter syndrome, and we sit doubting ourselves, and, worrying about our different personas, and then we're out of balance, and then we all kind of just hide and smile
Yeah.
and tell everybody we're just fine,
We
you know?
do. And speaking
Yeah.
of imposter syndrome, of course, we all are familiar with the concept. We've probably, I don't know, how long have we been talking about imposter syndrome? Since what, the
Like
80s, the 90s? I
it
don't
was
know.
actually coined in the early 80s, I think.
Okay.
The
So
term.
it
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing that I've been doing, and this is, again, I have so many struggles just getting out of my own head. So I say that full transparency that I am very much a work in progress. And when I have moments where I'm kind of intimidated, this is a new practice. So I'll say that right now. A new practice where when I'm nervous and I'm walking into a space, like yesterday, I went to a wonderful networking event. I was nervous because I knew that there were some very high powered women that were in that space, but I didn't know exactly who they were. You know, you're kind of told, like, hey, this is the circle you want to come to. These are the people you want to mingle with. But I didn't know who they were, what they were attached to, what kind of investments or whatever. It just walked in, and I'm trying to just calm myself and say, okay, you belong here, you belong here, you belong here. But the game that I'm not playing with myself is that I find somebody else in the space and I compliment the other woman. Could be anything. Oh gosh, I like that bag. Or oh, your hair looks gorgeous. Or oh, can you just tell me where you got those earrings from or whatever? And it gets me out of my own head. It takes me out of this debate of you don't belong here, you're not enough, you're whatever. And I go outwardly to this other person, and I can see the other person physically disarm themselves because they're probably in their own heads. And it's a new thing that I've been doing, but it has been so fun and so effective. And so I did it yesterday at a luncheon where I went, and immediately I had two ladies that I did exactly that too. And it's not a fake thing, because it usually is something that I'm looking like, oh girl, where you get those shoes? You know, and sure enough, they sat right down next to me, and we had a really great time just chit chatting while this event was happening. So that's just one of those things where it's like, if you're in your head thinking, imposter syndrome, I don't belong here, I'm not enough, everybody around you is probably having that same internal battle. But when you get out of your head, do something to connect to another human being, you probably are going to just, give them a moment to get out of their own heads as well.
I have one of my sticky notes that my affirmation is that, and I can't believe that time.
Oh my
And we have
gosh.
a million other things we want to talk about, but my affirmation of the month is I am a sexy, sassy ass kicker of a woman.
Oh,
And
I
so
love that.
that's what
Love it.
the
Love it. Love it.
absolute at the level of fact at this exact moment, I am the exact opposite of that. But
Yes.
you know what? I will be telling myself I'm walking sexy, sexy ass kicker of a woman. Like I'm, talking to myself and I sound ridiculous. I don't know. I don't. I'm not gonna do that. But that's it. And the coolest thing, as I say it, is if I start to like talk myself down, is I remember, Kat Albertson.
Yes.
She and I were talking one day, and I was saying something not so positive about myself, and she turned around and she goes, "Stop it! I don't like when you talk about my friend like that." And I was like, "What?" Like she's like, I was stumped, and she was like, "I don't like when you talk about my friend like that." I'm like, "Talk about me." And she's like, "You're my friend.
Mm,
I don't like when you talk about my friend like that." And it totally stopped my world. And I've said it to other
yes.
people, and
Yeah.
it is so powerful because we respect our friends and the people that we love so much. And if they like us, we trust their judgment.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
when I'm feeling imposter syndrome, like I'll go to somebody and say, "You know what? I'm like, I'm feeling," and they're like, they'll tell you cool things. Or I save emails that I got, like
Mm,
Emily Marshall sent me an email 100 years ago. It was several years ago, and it was said something really nice. I literally have it printed out and taped on my bathroom mirror from years ago. So I think it's really
oh,
cool that we don't know what we say or what we can do, but we
yes.
have all these ways that we can be supporting each other, elevating each other, and lifting each other up, that we will never, never know
Yeah.
that it had that effect. Like Emily would have never known that if I hadn't told her and I didn't talk about it every time somebody
Yeah.
sat still.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Um, but I just think that's really cool. And as we wind up, we're literally at 1 minute. Um, you did something where you reached out and asked people
Mm,
who they were or who
yeah.
you were to them.
Yes.
Tell me a little
It was
your
an
story.
exercise that I did. It was another business networking event, And she was like, you're trying to figure out your thing. You're trying to figure out who you are and what your strengths are. And so the task was to text 5 friends right there in the moment, text 5 friends and ask them who, or I'm going to mess it up, but what, who am I as your go-to person? What am I, depending on, what the deal is in that clutch moment, who am I to you for that? And like you have a friend that is your go-to person when you just want to be rational. You have somebody else that is your go-to person when you are, wanting to fight a big battle, or the person that is going to talk you off the cliff. Who am I to you? And text those 5 people. And it was very enlightening and endearing. I mean, it was a moment where I was just like, holy crap, I didn't, even though they are my friends, they are people that I love dearly, what they texted back to me was so sweet, so empowering. I felt 10 feet tall, and I was able to figure out, okay, if other people are seeing me as this kind of person, then I need to, kind of take that in, soak it up for a moment and bring that into whatever my superpower is. And it helped. So I had that moment where they were able to tell me, oh, you're my go-to person for this. You're my clutch person for that. And I was like, really? I didn't know that but I had to go back and think of the conversations, the low moments that we shared together. And I was like, okay, I got it. I got it. I can be that person today or tomorrow, and, build up the thing to go and face the world or face whatever this mountain is that's in front of me. So it helps.
Love that because it's empowering and imparts a sense of responsibility on you at the same time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
in really cool ways. So I
Yeah.
love that. So I think that's what, um, if we could steal that from you, I think that's such a
Absolutely.
cool thing
Go for
for
it.
people to do. And my goal today was to do a few things. One, to begin, which is going to take us a long time to do it, but to normalize the idea that we're all just kind of figuring it out and that
Mhm.
none of us are perfect. We're all kind of wonky and figuring out our wonky bits and all that. And
Mhm.
we're also awesome that where another was to just celebrate one of the amazing women that I know, that's you, um, and the cool work that you're doing. 3, to make the connection so that when other people are looking for the work that you do,
Mhm.
they can they can go, oh, I'm going to go to Upskill, or I'm going
Mhm.
to talk to Akilah, um, because I want to learn about her work, but also the confidence and power that you bring to conversations. Like I've seen you, because I've gotten to see you speak and you host like hosting panels and just everything that you do. You're a person to turn to for women who are looking to come into their own strength and beauty. So
Hey,
that was another
I
thing that I wanted
I
to
love that.
do
And
and
thank
bring
you
across
for
today.
allowing me to be here. So I hope that, number one, that we get to do it again. So I'm always putting that out there in the
Uh-huh.
universe. But
Yeah.
then number two, that if anybody is listening to this message and they're wanting to walk into their own badassery, then you need to sit next to me, because I will appoint myself your cheerleader, your coach, your everything, because I think that we definitely have areas that we don't recognize our strength. We don't recognize our brilliance. And if there's one tiny little thing that I can do with the services that I provide that give you that high, that make you jump on top of the stage and do whatever the thing, then hey, I'll sign up for it.
All right. So thank you everybody who is here live, and then thank you everybody who is watching the recording. Um, Akilah's information will be on my website. She is Akilah. I'm sorry, you are Akilah at upskillservices.com. So you want to
I
drop that, or
I will,
info at
yeah,
Upskill. Drop it in the chat for me,
yeah,
please.
info.
And
Yes.
info at upskillservices.com. And then drop your link to your website as well. And then I will also send it out with the recording. And then, like I said, it'll be on my website, and then your information will be in the prize package that will be drawn for one of the people who attended live today. A
Nice.
series of little goodies, including some access to some of Akilah's services. And then also, I do want to note that we have the coolest sticky notes in the world. So
Okay.
anybody who
You had to pull out the big ones.
these are cool. So, okay, so we're officially 5 minutes over. We'll stick around for a couple minutes just chatting as people leave. But thank you for being here today. Akilah, I just adore you and thank you so much. I've had so much fun
Hey,
and
I feel the same way. I feel very, very blessed that we were able to continue the connection. So
yeah.
I count you into my circle of badass